If you want to kick it off.
No, sir, really, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate my colleagues coming out on a Friday morning at 10 o'clock. I apologize, Commissioner Bobby Williams, for having to get out of the bed. But I just wanted to hear, because
He does have bedhead now.
I wanted to really just to hear, elaborate on some of these things here, and trying to get some understanding why they're needed and everything, so let them allow them to go through, and then I'll ask my questions afterwards. So unless it's pressing to stop at the time, but I'll let them make the presentation based on what they're asking the commission to do.
Dr. Malik, are you going to do the presentation, or you're not?
Yeah, I'm just going to go through this outline as an open conversation, so you all can stop me as we go through it or at the end, really.
And is the paperwork all that we have?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 3 pages, so page 1 or 2 is just going through the operation and where we are and some of the challenges, and really the page 3 is the critical one,
Okay.
where some of the requests or recommendations I have.
All right. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for providing me this opportunity and the task you all gave me back in June. It was not an easy task, that I took it and I'm in it, so I'm committed to deliver the expectations, but I do need support of this body to make it work. So it's not only me, there was a few other individuals from engineering who volunteer really to help me out. So they are in it, so their names are there. Oscar Fly, he is not here today, and so he's almost every day there. Walt Corman, who is the engineering manager, and he is very much in engineering part, almost there every day too. And then the Charlie, who's actually took over some of the services like bulky waste and non-compliance waste pickup, and helping in the recycling material hauling from Goshen to that. So with that, I'm just going to jump into one by one. So first part, item A, is the actual landfill, which is a solid waste operation itself. And I have 4 parts to that, and then the same repeat for the collection. So the first one is really employee management. Again, I appreciate this body to approving the restructuring and some of the work schedule. We're still working through it. It was a start. It was a good start, but still there are a lot of challenges in it. It's really, I didn't realize how challenging it was till I got into that. I know it was not easy, but we're working through it, and I have some recommendation requests at page 3 with the respect. So in a summary, I did the evaluation of the operational hours. That was 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I did the intake of the truck coming in every hour. And the last hour between 4 and 5, there were only like 5 and 6 trucks. So with that assessment, right now we scaled back to 4 p.m. We have not seen any impact to the intake load we're getting, daily intake load. The shift hours, we started with 2 shifts, and we're working through it still. So early this month, or 2 weeks back, actually, we created 3 shifts now, and we changed them. So the third shift is 3-person. They're going to be 100% dedicated to the site maintenance, like daily erosion issues, some other site repairs, cleaning the ponds, all of that. Because right now, literally this year, 2022, because of compliance issues, landfill roughly spent $2 million just on the site to bring it back to that. I will bring Walt Corbin to, because he's been involved day to day our operation, to give a little bit more insight, because really you all need to understand and hear what's the challenge over there. So Walt, can you kind of fill in?
Yeah. Good morning. Let me know if you can't hear me clearly. As Doc said, my name is Walt Corbin. I'm the engineering manager. One of the tasks I was given when we were merged was management of the day-to-day operations with the active cell, as well as the maintenance staff that handles our heavy equipment operations. So as such, I've been working through various things on site to make sure we kind of get back into compliance. If it's all right with the commission, I'd go through Dr. Malik's original agenda, kind of talk about some of the things we're actively doing, and kind of some of the things we want to go to in the future. To start with, as Dr. Malik said, we are currently working on employee management. We have instituted daily tailgate meetings with the staff, in which the landfill manager, his 2 assistant landfill managers, meet with staff on a regular basis before the shift starts to allow everybody to know kind of what our operations are for that day, where we're heading, where the waste needs to be placed, any kind of safety concerns that may be present on site. I think this is one of the things that was lacking previously, is there was not a lot of communication between staff. So we're looking to improve that. Dr. Malik has instituted having a company called Blue Ridge, which is a national recognized firm in this industry, come out and do monthly inspections. They're actually out there today, and also training. To date, we've had 10 trainings with the heavy operators who actively place the waste, as well as the maintenance staff as needed. Some of the topics that we've touched on have been production and efficiency, managing landfill airspace. Airspace is very important out there. Compliance, that's obviously a key component, and alternate daily cover. Another issue that we've been having out there is the lack of pre and post inspections of the equipment. The equipment out there is critical to operations. Each piece of equipment can be, $1.5 million. This body recently approved a compactor, a new compactor out there, which was 1.6, I believe. And even though this body just recently approved it, we won't be getting that compactor until the 4th quarter of next year, if we're lucky. So back to the training. So we've started to get the operators in tune to inspecting vehicles before they actually operate them. Some of the things that can be found during the inspection can alleviate a lot of major costs in repairs. So the hopes is this will reduce some of our overall operating costs. Also, with the equipment, it leads to a lot of downtime if we don't have functioning equipment, which further impacts operations. Some of our equipment, while it's not typically based on age, it's more based on operation. Some of our equipment dates back to 2005. So it's definitely an older fleet. Let's see. Additionally, we haven't been able to determine that there's been any type of capital outlay program put in place for the equipment. It just seems that we tried to, or at least previously and historically, management just purchased equipment when they could, where they could, which has really further impacted the operations. Another critical component out there is our leachate system. So one of the compliance issues that we've had is leachate outbreaks. That's where the groundwater breaks through the surface. We have not been able to find any documentation that the leachate system was ever cleaned, and so therefore the system is not functioning as it should, further causing us compliance issues. We have currently put in a equipment replacement plan for fiscal 2023. It's kind of a stopgap measure until we can really get a handle on, we had issues with 2022 budget. So once we get a better handle on the 2023 budget, I think we're going to look to put more of a proactive plan in place to make sure that equipment is swapped out on a regular basis, and that the operators and staff have everything they need to be successful. Let's see. Excuse me, I'm just checking some of my notes, make sure I don't miss anything. Operational hours, as Dr. Malik, this body originally approved modifications to that with some changes in hours. Additionally, with the 2 shifts, as Dr. Malik mentioned, we've recently, as of Monday a week ago, we've shifted the way the shifts operate, or their operating hours, to help better control the site. We still have 2 shifts that handle the day-to-day waste, and then as Dr. Malik said, we've instituted that 3rd shift to kind of handle the special projects, which are basically everything that we've been having to contract out to contractors. So we're hoping to internalize some of those costs to help better with our deal with our budget issues. Let's see. So I don't know that Dr. Malik mentioned this. With regards to regulatory compliance, as of last Wednesday, we had an annual inspection by the local EPD office. The inspection went very well, in my opinion. We just received, was it yesterday, Dr. Malik?
Yeah.
The finalized inspection report. The inspection of the active cell received 100, a perfect score, which is great, because I think the last score we received was
Let me ask-
70.
Let me ask a question around this.
Yes, sir.
If I may. Did you ever give the administrator a copy of that report?
Yeah, we just got it yesterday, so I hadn't had a
But
chance
Did
to.
it go to the administrator?
Oh, okay.
You eventually got one?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, if I can, the way it works is the EPD always send a report to the mayor. So mayor got the report and then I distribute it. Since we have a working relation and all that, so they just send us a copy as a courtesy. But the official report goes to the mayor.
Well, it usually gets down to us through the administrator. Evidently, Mr. Garrett received one. So I'm just making sure that we go through proper channels to get it to the commission, which would come from the administrator.
Yes, sir. So I did send a copy to the Van Braun and Miss Dawes, yesterday. And as the engineering chair, I just share with them. Yes, sir.
So if I may continue, so we did receive a score of 100, but my opinion and Dr. Flight's opinion, he and I both weren't really satisfied with where the site stood prior to inspection. We felt like we could have been in a better situation, and the amount of effort that he and I both had to expend to get to that 100, I think far exceeds what it should have been. So we're still struggling there to stay in compliance, in my opinion. While I am happy with the score, I still would like to see more. One of the things that is positive is I mentioned earlier regarding airspace management. That's the area we're allowed to place waste at any given time. That airspace equates to dollars. We spoke to our consultant, Blue Ridge, and due to some of the training they've implemented with regards to compaction techniques, we were originally slated to have to move the current area to another future area by the end of this year. We are currently working to get that area certified with the state. But due to the training, the staff has extended the lifespan of that area almost 3 months. So there's some positive benefits. Airspace equates to about $5,500 a day of savings, which is significant in my opinion. Let's see. We've also looking, with regards to airspace, we're looking to purchase a tarp machine. So currently, active waste is supposed to be covered every day with 6 inches of topsoil, or not topsoil, soil, which eats up a lot of area. So we're looking to purchase a tarp machine, which is just basically, as it sounds, a machine that will just lay a tarp over the top of it, and then the next morning they'll roll it back up. So it'll help further reduce that savings. Excuse me. Also, GPS equipment. One of the things that is used on a regular basis to control where the fill's placed is GPS equipment on the machines. Most of the equipment has GPS. There are some machines that don't. So we're currently working to get all machines activated with GPS equipment to make sure that we place fill in the right place and don't have to come back and redo additional work. see.
Can I ask you a question about the tarp?
Just
So isn't there already a tarp out there that was, I know it's messed up, but is it not repairable?
it's in pretty bad shape. So this was all prior to us coming out there. The unit's like a big rolling unit. Tarp goes on it, rolls it up on a big heavy piece of equipment. The frame for that is damaged beyond repair. So now the tarps are just laying out there on the ground, so they have to be dragged into place, which some of the operators don't really like to do because it makes them have to get out and get on the waste itself, which can be hazardous. So the thought is we'd purchase a new one, and then therefore we can kind of help recoup some of these costs.
Okay.
You know, not only the cost with the soil and everything in the daily cover we lose, but you know, the time, the fuel, and the ancillary costs that go in with bringing that soil to the site is significant. So I think with that said, unless I missed anything, Dr. Malik.
Thank you all. So,
Hold on one sec. Commissioner Scott has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to go back to the Blue Ridge training. Who exactly are being trained?
So currently, the majority of the training is for the heavy equipment operators who actively run the active cell phase. The maintenance staff who handle the heavy equipment, they're being brought in for training when the subject matter is relevant. We're also looking into ancillary training for the maintenance staff with some of the local vendors to also get them more familiar with equipment.
All right. Thank you.
so on the training part, let me expand it. So right now, the operator really, they have a skill to operate the equipment. That they are very poor how to manage the waste and compact it because it does require certain level of compaction to maintain certain grades. It has different layers and terraces and keep access to the incoming waste to the trucks. So that's what the training is more like really hand-on training to kind of get them how to place the base, where to place it, and all other things. And it's been it's helping quite a bit, you know. So I'll continue that. The last part of that is fund management. As you know, we went through it, so we're doing as much we can, cutting the hours, improving the efficiency of the operation, like shifts, all that will cut the overtime, and try to get some work done in-house and all that. I'm going to move on to the section B, which is the contract or waste collection. On the same notes is employee management. So that's the area where bulky waste, helping the recycling all comes, and the trolley gave the maintenance. So some of that operation actually went under him. But we're experiencing serious challenge getting in-house work done, so we rely on the contract services to keep the services going and to provide citizens whatever they need to, you know, the help-wise. So I'm going to get into more because there's some issues with the contract and all that, compliance versus non-compliance waste, and who's going to pick up, who's not going to pick up. By the same token, citizens expect the service. So, and that's what my goal is, to provide the service what's expected. So with that respect, the number 2 is waste collection route management. Before handing over to me, there was really no process in place to manage the route. As you know, we have 3 collection routes, 1 which is served by the waste management, 2 and 3 by the coastal. So we have 3 route supervisors, control supervisor right now. Actually, 1 is filled, 2 unfilled, so we're in the process of filling it. So each one gonna follow this route to make sure the route is picked up, make sure there's no trash left when they pick up the can, and all those kind of things. So and also the compliance. If it's not picked up, that person can contact Holler and make sure the waste is picked up. So that's something new implemented and is a positive path on that. On the next page, the bulky waste on the top. So we still kind of struggling with that, with the compliance and non-compliance waste, because the contract says 10 cubic yard, and it's more subjective, all that. So right now, if the contract is not picking up, we internally managing and pick up and get that service completed that way. The recyclable waste, I've been several times on the Goshen facility. Really, I have not seen any recyclable waste there. So what's happening is, as a contract requirements, contractor picked it up, they unload at the Goshen facility, and we, using in-house equipment and stuff, just reload it that way, bring it to the landfill. So just
So in regards to the recycling, I know that here you said there's a lot of contaminated waste that comes in there that's unusable. I know a couple years ago we talked about changing the recycling program, or so with some of these recycling facilities coming in that are looking for plastics and things like that, is there a way to restructure our recycling program to focus more on the recyclable plastics? Would that help, at least with some of the contamination issues? Because I know a lot of it is the wet cardboard and things like that.
yes, sir. So definitely those options can be looked at. But again, on the third page, I have recommendations. Right now, city hands are tied by the contract. We have to go with the contract, what the contract requires and all that.
Yeah.
So
Does the contract specify what materials they have to pick up?
no, contract says it's recyclable and 100% participation and where it has to go and all other things. So it will require changes in the contracts, and I will get into that, at least to point it out, because believe me or not, I went through the contract and I have a point, and I'm in a continuous discussion with the waste manager and Coastal, because they took over this contract. It's not their contract. The company negotiated that, they bought them out, and they have the same concern which I have with the contract.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Picking up on the recycling, how many people in Augusta do recycling? One. Two, are we making money or losing money? And three, I don't know if I want to put you on the spot or not, but is it something that you think we should continue? Just asking for your opinion.
What was the third one?
The last one was, do you think that this is something that we should continue in our trash contracts, recycling? Or should we come up with something else?
Yes, sir. So, again, I have some thoughts on the page 3, but I will try to respond to these 3 questions. So, roughly there are 64,000 accounts. They are served by this contract. So, roughly, my understanding, talking to the staff and looking at some of the numbers, is 30% participation. So, 70% are not participating. As far as making money, I don't have a real number, but we're not generating any recyclable or very minimum. So based on that, I will assume we're losing money because we're paying $3,500 a month lease. We're hauling the material from Goshen to the landfill, which is a lot. So staff time, equipment time, fuel, everything on that. So we should continue. Yes, it's a good thing, but in a different shape and form.
I mean, is this something that you think we need to take a good look at? Again, I know we've got people out there that want to fight you if you say you're going to get rid of recycling, but when you have 200,000 people and then you only getting a possibly 30% of 200,000 people using it, that's not saying very much.
So I can jump ahead of time. From page 3, my thought is to city should not offer recycling, but it should be requirement to the contractor to offer the recycling, and the residents, whoever want the recycling, because there are 30%, they can directly work with the contractor and set up the account like every other place in a similar way. So we are not abandoning the program. We have a program, but we are not managing the program at a city level. Let the contractor themselves manage it, but that we will make mandatory part of the new contract or whatever negotiated contract. So our service will be offered.
So what you're saying, in the new contract, we should not be managers of a recycling program, but we should require trash people to have some type of recycling that they can do with the citizens.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's on recycling. Fund management, the same thing. We're doing our best to cut the costs on that and manage the funds in a better way. And so we're gonna keep working on that. 2023 budget will be the real test how this whole thing work it out. So we're gonna jump to C, which is really is the key element of this whole operation, which is the cost and the rate and the structures. And I'll be open to answer any question, and we may not have to resolve today, but I think that's something we need to do, initiate the conversation on that. So we already went through the operational hours parts. I'm not going to get into that. So the part 2 is operation costs. I've been asking that question even before you all giving me this operation, and really never got an answer. So being engineer number guy, I went ahead and did myself. It's for planning purposes, it's easy way to figure it out. So the cost varies right now because of the compliance issues, some other the maintenance on the equipment, all that were not done for the last 10, 12 years. But on average, the city costs per ton to operate the landfill is $30. So that's the key number to remember, but without if you go to number 3, that's our standard disposal rate for the household waste and all. We do have others, but really that's insignificant, so I didn't put that. So right now, the total per ton, if I go on the scale, I have to pay $35.30. However, the actual rate is $33.50, and there's 75 cents, which state has a fee attached to it, which we transfer money to the state. And then the 3% environmental fee. I'm not sure how this all originated, but it's there. So anyway, the number is $35.30. Right now, the contracted waste, the contract city has with the waste management and the coastal, the city collects $310.50 per year per account, and provide either 96-gallon quart. That's for that $30.10.50, and if you have a smaller quart, then it's $232.88. But those are kind of insignificant accounts numbers. However, as a part of the contract, and so landfill also has a volume discount, which is kind of standard business practice to bring more revenue for, say, you can say, sort of the standard gate rates are if someone is bringing 2,000 to 4,000 or 399 tons, so there's a $3. I mean, they pay 32.20 cents. If it's 4,000 tons to close to 8,000, it's $29.10, and then 8,000 or above is 26. So that is the standard discount. However, in the contract, the way it was written, and then there was negotiation in 2017-18 between the city and the two haulers. So that is 5.2 is so right now the coastal pays up to 2,000 tons, $32.20. From 2,000 to 5,000, $26.50, and 5,000 or greater, is rolled back to the standard.
Dr. Malik, in regards to these breakdowns, is this per load when the discounts are applied, or is it per day, per week? How do we determine when somebody brings, 8,000 tons? Is that all at one time, or is that
It's per month.
per month?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's I'm taking. I can verify it, but I'm positive it's per month. Yeah,
Okay.
because these are the account holders, so you bill them at the month. So that's what.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I was just trying to wrap my head around how you figure out
Yeah.
who's bringing what. Okay.
Because roughly daily intake is somewhere 15 to 1,600 tons a day right now, and I'm sidetracking, and that is one of the challenge I see what happened at this landfill. The previous landfill was getting only 800 tons a day, and now it's almost double. But operational-wise, city never adjusted the operation. The staff, equipment, everything was still the same that were operating 800 ton a daily landfill, and that's one of the other reasons we ran into a lot of compliance issues. So just a kind of side comment. So that's the con. Then the waste management even has a better deal on that. So they pay up to $4,026 a ton, and then there is a bracket in between. Let's say 5,001 to 10,000. I saw two numbers. I couldn't figure out which one is correct. Other is 13,500, and they pay only $17 for that. And then everything above is rolled back to $23.50. So I can just see.
Was this the rate that was adjusted with, I guess, when Lori Vedetto was here?
Yes, sir. During that time, yes. And that is the other thing definitely to be changed in the contract. Right now, the way contract is written is for rate change, staff or administrator does not have to come back to this body to get the rate change approved. They can go and change the rates because that's the way contract is written, and that's the rate contract was approved by this body. So it's not something they're doing out of the way, but that's what is in the contract. And that's, in my opinion, need to be changed because any changes to the contract should be the decision of this body because that's what they're worried by this body. So, so that's where how the contract is operating right now. If it's the question, I'm gonna move on to the last part, which is capital, and then I'm going to jump on to some other questions.
Before you move on, got a couple questions for you. So, just looking at the way these contracts are set up with the haulers, especially with these pretty big discounted rates that looks like one of them gets, how much are we losing, or what is it costing the city for the haulers to have these rates?
So right now it's roughly volume discounts overall somewhere in 1.3, 1.4 million.
How much we're losing?
Yeah, that we're going into discounts.
Okay.
All that because there's other non-commercial ways. So basically, in a layman term, city subsidizing some of these contractors to bring the waste. I have on the next page, but I did
Oh,
research.
Commissioner Hassan asked a question.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to your question there, that was going to be one of the things that I think that could be done immediately. You can go back to previous scale weight in terms of prior to changing those things, because like you said, the contract says something quite different. So that's not necessarily a contract change, it's something that the commission allowed to happen when Ms. Fidello came before us. So you can reinstitute those previous rates. And number two that you can do, I think the CNG is paying about $2.60. You can go back to the $4. So those are two changes that you can make almost immediately. Thank you. That's all I want to say for just
And
right now.
Do you have what the original contract rate reductions were for waste management? What was their original contract rate? Do we have those?
So yes, sir. If I may weigh into those two suggestions, it may not be easy to make those changes because we had to really go back and read how the contract is written, and then I can work with the legal to see whether we can reverse that because in the contract you all did authorize the director and administrator to make changes in that, and we got to see whether in that latter where changes made, there was a caveat that this rate can be reversed or not. I did look at the CNG. I didn't find that clause in that rate change when the change was made. There may be in the other one. I think there is some clause in that, but we can look at that.
Commissioner Hassan?
Yes, Doc, to your point, three things, and I'm glad you brought it up because I've brought this up previously. I think the contract, and I'm glad you brought it before us because we're hoping by you highlighting this that you will honor what you believe to be right, and that is that the commission should make the decisions. Because I've always said the contract was written for the director controls everything, and I have been seeing it, and I raised that question before. So I'm hoping you will honor that. You think it's the best place to go. But however, when you're talking about those fees that you're talking about change, the director did not change it. She did bring that before the commission, so the commission should be able to reverse it. She didn't do it independent of the body. She brought it before us, and we thought those things, those costs were across the board to both vendors, and not thought some of that was just for a single vendor, but it was a commission action that was taken.
All right, Commissioner Dennis Williams.
Yeah. My question is there any benefit to these discounts that we give the contractors toward the city? Any benefit to the city by having the discounts?
Well, the idea of the discount is a basic business model. You give discounts to your high volume customer and make sure, but you don't give discount to subsidize it. You're gonna shut your shop. So because basically still discount should not go below your operational costs. And it seemed like some of the discounts are below the operational costs, and that's probably was not considered when this whole also this contract and all these things started in 2010. I know the actual contract in 2013, but really everything was written somewhere in 2020. The condition in 2010, 2011 was totally different than what we're facing now. But city side didn't change. The contractor, everybody else making adjustment, negotiating everything. So at least they are adjusting their cost of operation, but city never adjusted its cost of operation. So that's another.
Commissioner Williams.
So basically, the city gets no benefit for offering the discounts at all, correct?
At the surface, city does get the benefit because more waste is coming. But if you analyze all that, I want to look at the nearest landfill and others. Waste management closer landfill is in Savannah, and that's like 102, 103 miles from here, one way and all. So you had to factor all that in, the cost. But other like I may have here, but anyway, the closest one is I think is around $40 per ton. So we are the cheapest landfill in the area, even in the state probably. So adjusting, and that's some of the recommendation, have our rate to a certain extent will not hurt. The hauler may not like it, paying a little bit more, but still, end of the day, they have.
Well, let me ask you a question. What is the risk if we raise the rates to kind of where they should be in order to cover our cost, and these haulers decide not to bring their waste to us? What's the risk there?
If we increase such a way that still we are competing with the other landfill, I think the risk is very minimum. They may not like it. But yeah, if we increase like $10 from 35 to 45, then they may go out. But if we increase like $5, still be in that range where everybody else is charging. But again, let's say one of the hauler decided not to bring it here. They have to haul it, transport it, so they have to factor that cost in. That means they have to have a truck, they have to have operators. It's probably going to take them, in a day, they may take 2 trips. I mean, they do have transfer station, they can pile it there, so there is additional cost. So they got to evaluate as a business, which make still more sense. And both haulers are aware of, because I've been talking to them because I want to hear from them what their concerns are, all that. And they do understand the cost of operation. So, like raising $5, I don't think will hurt Augusta.
All right.
The intake.
Mr. Williams, were you good? Okay. All right. Dr. Malik?
Yes, sir. So the last part, Walt Levy went into that. Really, there was, at least we could not find any plan how to deal with the capital improvements that's needed. So right now there are 4 areas which we're gonna be facing construction. So one is the phase 3 active unfinished liner. If you look at the Google, you will see the black tar at the back where they're dumping now. It's around 12 acres. Right now, we have 3 to 4 months of airspace. So I'm already working on it. I already have a design, and I'm gonna come back to this body in the first meeting, and I have some conversation with procurement to supplement the contractor who is closing 2C right now, because we don't have time, and that's the last thing city want to do to run out of airspace. So we're gonna mobilize that. So there is a budgeted dollar somewhere, 2.5, 3 million. But what I'm saying is, things like that, there are some reserve funds, a few million. This body should allow to use those, and then with the option, we will put it back, because I'm very positive. Once things stabilize in a year or so, there will be saving, which we can go back, put it back on the reserve. But right now, these things will never plan, never have that. So we're going to have some. Same as the gas system, we have to add the gas system. It's a requirement of the state law and compliance. After you fill up certain acreage, you cannot go to the next extension or expansion before putting a gas system. So it's the same. We're going to work through the. If we increase the rate, there will be some revenue in some other way.
Is the current gas system working?
The system is working, but it's not clean enough. So that's part of all that. We're going to address that so we can sell it.
So the Kaolan mine's not able to use it?
They're using it, but not to the extent they were previously. Yeah, you want to weigh in?
Excuse me. Now, definitely the ability to use that methane gas is definitely decreased. We're hoping that one of the things that may improve that it's the leachate cleaning system. We're hoping that will help make this methane a lot more usable to that plant.
So you said that it's not currently where it used to be. I know we used to generate, what, 30 or 40,000 a month off of that? Is that correct?
Yeah, it was somewhere around that number yesterday,
Where are we at currently?
I think we're down to 100, between 100,000 and 200 per year, something like that. Because it's still mixing, so one of the process we're working is to separate the older landfill gas lines with the newer, which is phase 3, and so that will help us out. So that's one of the action items for 2023. Definitely, we're going to address that. Yes, sir. Yeah. And then the partial closure, we'll be required to close at least part of it, which is the north slope, to build the next one. Again, it's a state requirement, and most of the funds we're already putting in closure, post-closures. So we'll work with the finance to work it out. The major expense is going to come probably somewhere in 2025, which is the actual extension. So the way landfill is permitted and designed, there are 7 stages to that. So stage 1, 2, 3. Right now, there were some changes made, so 1 and 2 got mixed up. So right now we are at stage 1, cell 3, which is the last cell. But stage 2, cell 1 already been filled and constructed. So we're going to go into stage 2, cell 2. And that time, so in 2023, we will have a dialogue with our finance, how to bond it and all that. So that's definitely going to go through the bonding and all that. So that's kind of thought process. We as a team have how to deal with the capital improvement funding needs. So with that, I'm going to come to the page 3, which I have several requests and recommendations, and definitely I need this body support. If they can't make decision today, but we have to, because to be honest with you, yes, we score 100, all that, but we have to hold everybody's hands to make 100 the way it work, and that is not sustainable by any means. There are a lot of improvement and changes need to be made to stabilize the operation and then become a normal operation. So the first one is really implied. So there are a lot of good workers, but there are workers where we have a lot of challenging and difficulty. So, the commission did take action and approved the reduction in force, all that. All I'm saying is, I think at the next step, we needed to do the workforce assessment based on scalability, because landfill operation is very specialized operation. You can call it, heavy industrial operation, and not everybody can really perform that function. Otherwise, the material they're exposed to, the grade they're exposed to, all other things. So that's kind of my recommendation and request, that this body should allow us to do that assessment, and we bring it back what that outcome is. The part B is the permit compliance. So basically continuing on-site training. So I'm working with the procurement, so we already have an RFP out to formalize the training process, and some other work we're doing under engineering right now, so that way it's be independent to get that contract in place. So that's already going. Then similar way, we need to have some sort of maintenance corridor like we have in the engineering. I would like to have for that. So basically, it's on call because some of the activities or maintenance we may not have in-house ability, or maybe we're pressed by the time. If we get heavy rainstorm or something like that, given the nature of the material there and the grades, heavy rainstorm never help. It always creates a lot of challenges at the landfill. And walls a little bit, cover the equipment, to have some sort of rental contract and then replacement plan. Because right now we're dealing with aging equipment and it's down every day. Staff is doing excellent job to keep it running and all that. So that's the 1B. In the 1C is the fund management. Again, it's my take on my assessment and all that. I think we needed to take a deeper look into the landfill fund, how the funds are managed, where it's going, all of this stuff.
All right. Before you get too far down the list, in regards to 1B, these action items that you have, do you have a schedule for us of when you want to bring your plan back to us?
I don't have a schedule, but I can bring it back probably, by end of definitely in March.
Okay. Commissioner Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to ask Doc, how much more you want to go through before I start talking?
Well, he's halfway down the page. So
Okay, I'll wait.
All right.
Okay.
I mean, how long are you going to talk? I'm messing with you. All right, Dr. Malik.
So moving on to 1D, which is the waste disposal rates and action item. So question times have been asked, okay, what do we need to do? So as far as the residential rate, which is a contract rate, right now city charge $310.50. Based on my assessment and the needs of rebidding or renegotiating in the near future, my recommendation is don't change that rate right now, because the new contract or negotiated contract definitely will have a higher cost. And that time, this body will be forced to adjust the rate. So I don't know if we want a rate change now and then come back in a year and a half and change it again. Because right now, the current rate is bringing just enough revenue to get break even. If we manage the funds in a better way, I think we can get by with it. At least that's my recommendation. Just a full disclosure, contractor costs went up because there is a index in the contract that they can increase based on the customer price index. So it was $3.10 per account. Rest of the thing, let's say, is constant. So it went up it will went up next year around $4. So city will be paying around $17 instead of $13.10. And that will be $3.6 million, around that much that we have to pay to the contractor on that part. But my recommendation is wait till whatever this body want to do with the contract, because waste management contract is expiring next year. So by contract, city has to make a decision at least in 6 months before that what the plans are. And knowing what happened to the current contract, I was looking last night, it literally took 18 months to get that contract in place.
Was some of that because it was a new service that we were offering, and it took a lot of I know some of that was the, getting the equipment in place and all that, right?
That's part of, so yeah, all other factors, yes, sir. So it will not take 18 months, but at least probably going to take 12 months. And then, so, and the other point I wanted to bring attention to this body, right now the waste management is service area 1, which is kind of more like half of the county. Waste management did submitted the proposal, but interested in the original contract. And they were the highest scorer in terms of qualification, resources, all that. But when the contract awarded, it was not awarded to waste management. So you had, because waste management, my understanding is, did not agree to the terms and conditions city wanted to, for them to comply with. So to me, it's a very important point, because it's the same company now inherited a contract which they never agreed to. So even we go and negotiate them, I know how much you're probably going to negotiate the current contract. So I just wanted to bring it to your all attention that the same company never agreed to this on otherwise they would have this contract from day one, because they were the most qualified from procurement process, all of the things. So. So moving on to
Mr.
the
Commissioner Hassan.
Yes, I would like to say something to what Dr. Malik just mentioned. Dr. Malik, in truth, and I do understand your narrative. Your narrative is when these contracts were first put on the street, waste management was the highest out there. However, where we are now, waste management is the owner of a contract. Their contract expires in 23. Am I correct thus far?
yes, sir.
Okay,
Yeah.
now, I know that seems to give you heartburn, and I understand it. But number one, our first order should be is that we got our money. Their contract is expiring, so I think originally what you can attempt to do, because like you said, you know how the transfer in and out could be time consuming, as you just made mention. But also, if you can renegotiate with them, like you said, because it has to be a 6 months window, and you can't, then you put it on the street. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to present it to us as though waste management is control. The contract expired at the end of 23. We just have to find a way for hoping our subs or what have you don't be impacted by that. But if waste management contract expires, you don't have to feel that you are threatened in any form or fashion because of their price at the beginning when this whole process started. We are in control. Their contract expires. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, sir.
All right. So I'm gonna keep moving to
Mr. Chairman,
Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm not sure. Mr. Hassan, can you expound on what you just said? So what are we trying to get at with that?
All right, Mr. Chairman, just kind of address that.
No, absolutely. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, no, he was just to us about the challenge of dealing with waste management. Waste management has a contract that expired at the end of 23 from a historical perspective, even though he hadn't gotten into it yet. But their contract expired in 23. We have to give, by per the contract, give them a 6 months notice in terms of what our intentions are, you know? So either he can start out, which I think is correct, is to start out trying to negotiate with them, and if you can't get in place to negotiate, you put it on the street. It's just that simple. That's all it is. And so his concerns about how they started out over 10 years ago, and I'm saying that you got time. You don't have to. I wouldn't feel threatened by that. That was my point.
Basically, what he's saying is we have to at least try to renegotiate these terms by June if we're gonna go bid this out, or before we notify them that we are gonna rebid all the contracts. Because their current contract expires at the end of 23, and if we're not going to extend it, we have to let them know by at least June. You have any other questions, Mayor Pro Tem? There's been a lot of good information there. Dr. Malik?
yeah. So it's number 3, E3, the non-contracted waste rates. So there's a couple of suggestions, required recommendations. I want to read it. So first is adjusting the current rate, and we look it into a range. What's going to happen? Increase $4, $5, $6 in terms of additional revenue, and where it will put us compared to the surrounding similar market or services. So these are for planning purposes. These are not the exact numbers. Just disclaimer on that, but it's good enough for planning purposes. So $4 increase will generate around 1.1. 5 is around 1.5, and then 6, 1.9. And my recommendation is, if this body decided to take action either today or early next year, we should have enough time to communicate with everybody, not only the contractor, but the other commercial haulers or some of the businesses they may be bringing in that. So the suggestion is really on 3B Part B. So my suggestion is if we do $5 turn increase, that will take our base rate to $38.50, and then if we include other two fee into that, still we can compete the current market with that.
Dr. Malik, if both of our contract haulers paid the exact same rate, let's just use Coastal's rate since they seem to be more in line with what we need to cover our cost, how much additional would we generate there?
So this is based on the assumption that we're going to reset their rates with the volume-based rate we have, and then they will fall in the same. So on that,
But I thought this rate was for the non-contract.
I have to double check, but I think it's the it's based on that. But I think it did include it always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you double check and let us know?
Yeah, I will, but I think it's based on the total. Yeah. So the last part, which we already have some discussion, is what we want to do with the current contract. So I really don't have a concern how waste management is going to react. My concern is the timing. As I say, take 18 months. I do understand that was because of the CNG, but still, procurement process of contract of this nature, 6 months will not be enough, for that. So if you do the new contract, city has in a better position. I know some of the concern about the hauler working with the major haulers. Really, that can be addressed in the procurement process, how you build your contract. So what I'm saying is split the new contract or even negotiate contract, whatever route this body want to take it. Residential waste collection with the condition that the hauler has to offer recycling as a separate contract. Bulky waste and the yard waste as a separate contract. Because right now, city is paying for 100% participation on recycling, bulky waste, yard waste, but it's only 30%. So 70% really they're making money, though when they price and submit the fee, that time assumption was 100% participation. So the contractor is saving money.
You mentioned earlier that there was roughly 64,000 parcels that our contractors are picking up from. When's the last time that those numbers were looked at. I mean, I know that we've added numbers in the last 10 years to the amount of residences that are out there. And when's the last time that we looked to see how many actual cans are on the road and how many recycling cans?
I didn't look at that way how many recycled cans, but I did look at the counts actually recently. So that's what the number is, around 64. I may have that table right here.
I'm just stating that because if, even if we're going to look at, making some adjustments to the contracts, I think having some better numbers of the actual service required based on the numbers of households out there, I think would be helpful.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we have that itemized breakdown, but that's the roughly total number I can't yet. But I think that's what 30% average number coming out from how many has those cans out there. Yeah, I think it cover everything under item 4 too. So I think that's the end of the update I wanted to present to you all, and
Well, it's definitely
think it through.
there's a lot here to digest, and I know you got quite a few action items, but I'm not sure that any of us are ready to make any actionable requests today. I think Commissioner Hassan said he had a bunch of questions that he wanted to ask.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Will you turn your mic on?
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. Thank you.
And then we'll go to Commissioner McKnight after you.
Dr. Malik, thank you. Just want to congratulate your team for getting us in compliance out there. I know that's been no small task. City spent a ton of money, and as you can see, it seems to be money that was well spent to get that done. So we commend you on that. And from what I'm hearing you all saying, it'll never get to that degree that it is currently now. And I think you said if we get that methane, that it can generate some more money that we normally would have that we're not able to get at this particular time. So just want to commend you on that. But also in looking at the document from the EPD to specify the quality of work and the rating, the score, it had Gerald Adair name on there as well. But as I'm looking at your presentation today, you have yourself, you have Oscar, you have Walt, Mr. to each one of these gentlemen, and Charlie Gay. But you don't have Gerald Adair. Isn't he a deputy director out there?
Yes, sir. So those names reflect who was present that time when she was there. Mm-hmm. It does not reflect who actually contributed to this compliance.
So what is he responsible for at this particular time?
So he's more involved in the collection contract and that kind of thing. But I'm trying to get him exposed to some of these things. So whenever the inspection happens, I just bring him there so he understands. Because
is he a part of these conversations that you're putting before us today?
No, this is all what I put it together myself.
Okay, your paperwork says different though. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start asking my questions. My question number one, Doc. I see 3 places: your landfill funds management, waste collection funds management, and then on your past 4, you have C down there, funds management. And what you're saying here look like to me, you're saying work in progress, establish the operational budget, better internal control, but the things that review of funds allocating, supporting other functions. Those are my questions because that seems to be a tail on each one of those statements there. What does that mean?
To me, it's a very clear statement. We got to look at the revenue generated by this operation, how is that being utilized, and what functions it's going to. And that need to be assessed, and then if adjustment need to be made, then need to be made, and that's one of the plus for the city will be if they do the new contract, there are ways, some of those things can be incorporated into the contract, which they're not there now.
But you're asking for, on your final page, you're asking for a third-party assessment of funds. I mean, you got to be saying something in particular that you're making reference to, because it's clear in what you're saying. I'm just trying to figure out, what are you concerned about? Be specific about that.
I'm saying for everything. Yeah, the money going to the salary, money going to the, overtime, money go to, picking up the trash, all of the things, because that's the, overall assessment of the fund utilization, and then you make that adjustment how to operate. And then if there is a need to increase the fee in this case, then that's a justifiable increase.
But you said supporting other functions. Are you talking about non-related to the landfill? Or are you talking about landfill?
If the other non-related function are supported, then yes, sir.
Well, I think what Commissioner Hassan's trying to ask, if you're gonna generate additional funds at the landfill, are you talking about moving those funds to other departments, or are you talking about using those funds for engineering issues out at the landfill? Or I think that's what he's trying to ask, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think Doc got a little bit more. He know a little bit more about what he's asking, and he's letting on.
The using
He got it three places
for
on
the
there.
purpose is generated.
Are you? Well, let me just ask you point blank. Are you concerned about the enterprise fees and stuff that the landfill pay? Are you concerned about that? Is that one of your other functions that you're concerned about?
What do you mean by enterprise fee?
Well, the fees that you pay by being a enterprise activity out there, so it has to pay certain fees to the government.
You mean the indirect cost?
Yeah, indirect cost allocation, all those things. Yes.
By no means, no, sir.
You're not concerned about any of that?
Not indirect cost.
So what are you concerned about? Any of that at all?
I'm concerned about everything, because it's enterprise fund, as you mentioned, so it should act as enterprise fund, and the revenue generated should be utilized for the purpose why this fund was created, how it was created, what function is going to support.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Ms. Williams one question, if we can get past this, because it may be my misunderstanding.
As long as it's only one.
Okay, just one. Ms. Williams, in terms of being an enterprise funds, what all fees does it pay back to the government?
As an enterprise fund, it pays a payment in lieu of taxes and a payment in lieu of franchise fee, and not only just the enterprise funds, but all funds outside the general fund are part of the indirect cost allocation process, which is essentially payment for overhead, for procurement, finance, administration, etc. And then there are allocations for risk management to all the funds who have employees, which covers the cost of workers' compensation and your insurance, your damages, your settlements, etc. So I think
Thank you. Okay, Doc, does payment in lieu of taxes concern you, or are you fine with that as well?
So I'm concerned with how the money is spent. So,
But did you hear anything that concern you just now?
Are you talking about in regards to what?
What Ms. Donald just mentioned in terms of what is responsible for to the government, that's all.
let me say, I put my concern in writing during the budget time. So it's there, it's in writing, it's there. Administrative has a copy.
But you're talking to the body now. I'm asking,
Right,
I'm asking as a member of the body.
But
I'm asking as a member of the body.
Commissioner, what I'm saying is administrator can provide that copy to you.
So you're not going to answer, that's what you're saying?
At this point, I don't see it's appropriate for me to answer that question.
Are my colleagues satisfied with that response?
I'm trying to understand where
Well, I'm just asking. I'm asking about what he's concerned about. He got concerns, and he don't want to be forthcoming about them. Now is the time to put them out there.
well, I mean, but what do those concerns have to do with his action items and the discussion
Because he
for
has
today?
it 3 places on here. He has it 3 places, and then he has on the final page, he's asking for a third party to do an assessment of that. That has value.
Well,
and I'm
I had a-
asking him to
I had a question
elaborate on what his concerns are.
Well, and in regard to the third-party assessment, Dr. Malik, what is it that you're looking for there? Are you looking for an audit of the landfill and engineering, or just the landfill?
It's really not an audit. I'm saying, just look at the assessment and how the funds are utilized. And so,
But, I know that Malden and Jenkins gave us some recommendations earlier this year. Wasn't that based on some of their assessment of, what they were seeing in regards to revenue? And, they gave us some recommendations for some fee changes as well. Is that helpful for some of your third-party assessments, or are you looking for something else?
that might be. I mean, I don't have a copy of that, but I can get it.
Commissioner Hassan, I think Franum may have a question, then we'll come back to you, okay?
Well, go ahead. Go ahead then.
I guess my question for you is, you are concerned about how some of the money is being spent within the fund. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're concerned that some of the allocation of money for paying for services that maybe you shouldn't be paying for or shouldn't be billed within that enterprise fund. Is that true?
Yeah, those services need to be looked at.
That need to be
Either
removed or
should be paid or should be paid at some different level.
okay. Yeah.
I think that was one of the questions that we asked during budget was, is there a set rate for some of these, the PILF and the PILTs that are taken out? So, and I'm not sure we ever really got a clear explanation on those either. Like, is there a set percentage or of an enterprise fund where, and like I said, those are things that we were all trying to work through during the budget. But, Brent, back to you.
Yeah, I guess my thing is typically when we're up here, we don't individualize on employees or things. But I do think that what you shared with the administrator ought to be shared with his body. But out of respect for all the people involved, I don't think that we should be like antagonizing, trying to get something out on a public setting. It's kind of where my head's at. But I definitely understand Commissioner Son's somewhat frustration, I guess, in not getting your answer. But at the same respect, I think that we typically up here don't say everything that or attack people or whatnot from the department head standpoint. So I definitely think, though, what you're concerned about, and you've answered without saying what it was, in a sense, needs to be shared with this body. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Hassan?
Attorney Brown, let me ask Attorney Brown something.
How many questions you got for him?
One, I have one. Attorney Brown, talk to us about, Ms. Donna Williams has made mention of payment in lieu of taxes. There's other things there. Did you hear anything that concern you when it comes to enterprise funds in terms of responsibility toward the government?
No, from what I've seen, I do not have any legal concerns to raise. The law is a little general on this. The law provides that any costs associated with the administration of enterprise funds can be paid by enterprise fund.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
The law provides that any administrative costs associated or necessary for the function of enterprise fund can be paid by the enterprise fund.
Okay, thank you. I'll proceed.
Do you mind if I follow up a question?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Mr. Brown,
Yes, sir.
in regards to those enterprise fund payments that the law, allows provision for payment for, and, Ms. Williams said procurement, finance, administrative cost, on down the line. A lot of our departments have many of these own entities within them. So when you start looking at some of these different costs that, these payment in lieu of taxes, payment in lieu of fees are put out for? How do we differentiate what takes place within the department versus what takes place on a citywide level?
Well, Commissioner Garrett, let me try to answer it by way of an example. Say, for instance, fire department or utilities have an attorney embedded in their department. That is not all the legal services that that department receives. In addition, the person in that department, the lawyer in that department has to be trained by senior staff, senior lawyers, or deputy general counsel. So the law department is engaged much more than one person in there. Is usually so much activity by that department until that person is there to make it easier for the directors to get their legal needs without going through so much formality of trying to reach me. I wait for a meeting, then assign it. But just because enterprise fund pays some costs, say directly, there are still many other indirect costs. These enterprise funds do not, if they were a business on their own, so many things that the city provide for them, enterprise fund may not even be functional. Enterprise fund cannot exist without the massive support from the government. These are not, they are businesses within the government, but they only can exist because of the structure and the support that the government has.
Okay. No, that's helpful. Commissioner Hassan?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. My next question is this waste management contract. I see, Doc, you have down here, still, this is the part B on the first initial page you got, the very first page. You said non-conforming bulk waste and illegal dumping waste management operate placed under engineering maintenance. Why are you suggesting that you remove it from under the landfill?
So it's not any suggestions. The engineering maintenance is already handling this part because this operation was moved as a part of restructuring by by the action of this body. So the engineering maintenance is already managing or handling that service.
Well, I mean, if you have your people there, they're there on site. You have 3 of your staff from engineering service, so it looks like it can remain where it is. The need to move it if the body decides to at some point in time to do something different and figure that you've done a great job, I'll be gone for sure. But you've taken all the buck of the work with you right down to almost managing the contract. Over in the engineering services now. So you've almost stripped them to some degree over there. You've taken it on and put it on the engineering services. It's not fair to the landfill there.
If I may. So it's a restructure operation under my supervision. And that's why we brought it to this body. So in the restructuring, you have to optimize all the operation, and you have to move them around where it best fit. So it's not, in my opinion, it's not functioning as a 2 department. I can't do that way.
If you was working,
functioning as a 1 department, and then that's what that restructuring was. So
but if you're over those both departments that currently is already up under you, to move it there is very deliberate for whatever reason. It could have stayed where it is because it's still up under your jurisdiction. I'm gonna move on from that, Doc, because I don't want to. But I don't see the need to do that one. Now let me get to some of my concerns, then, because when my colleagues' patience will get thin with me, thinner than they already are.
Can we wrap this up in about 5 minutes?
Yes, sir.
We're about 30 minutes over.
My concern to my colleagues is, I think the first order of business, the end of 23, you have waste management contract is about to end. I think not this Dr. Malik is setting what he wants to do as we all hear. I think there should be a team of sitting down with the contract, the waste management, and see can you lead them in place in terms of what the asks are. I think the first thing is not to put it back on the street, If you have to go that way, trust me, I think you should do that. But also I'm concerned about separating and exposing our primes who have been with us day one. As we know, these subs, these primes have changed hands 3 or 4 times in terms of who owns these contracts. What's been our constant is our subs. And I think in some form or fashion, to put them, that contracts on the front line, I think can make them very vulnerable. They're local business persons. They've been here. They were treated very unfairly early on in this process. Eventually around 16, 17, we was able to get them some relief there. Dr. Malik, this has no bearing on you, so let me some relief to them. And I think we ought to find a way to protect that, especially local business persons that have been here from day one and been stable. Many of the problems that we've had per COVID has been more with our household garbage than it has been out of compliance. Because we set the standard was out of compliance. So in many instances, they had no choice but to leave it on the street if it's out of compliance. We have a prime person who's been with us, Dr. Malik, ever since we've had the contract. It's very easy, if you decide to want to do that, to say to get the landfill out of the out of compliance business. You have someone who's been there from day one. You can work out a contract with them and keep going. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to burn the house down and redo it all. If you know what you want, and I will say to you, you know what you want, and that's to be commended. But I'm saying I don't think you have to break these contracts out unless you give some level of support to businesses that's been here from day one when primes have come and gone. That's my major concern here. And I don't know, and that may be a procurement issue. Maybe it's a procurement. Then you just sit down and have these conversations. But I think if you're going to automatically put it on the street, then that shouldn't necessarily go to the contract that's going to expire in 25, because they may want to adjust to your terms. And that's all I'm saying. That may not be the first order of business. I'd let him respond to that if you want to, Mr. Chairman.
Got 1 minute.
No, I'm not going to respond to the statement, but I want to make it very clear. Because it's not what I want. I have no personal interest, no personal gain. And this is my job to present you all recommendation. Whether you want to go that route or not, that's really to this body. So saying that what this one I want, really, that's I don't want. And I just honoring this body action to take over that operation and try my best to bring it back where it's supposed to be. If this body feel like I need to move on from that operation, I'm fine with that too.
So if you don't have your way, you just leave, huh?
No, I'm not saying I leave. No, sir. I'm not even getting into that. I just want to make clear.
If it was me to my colleagues, if he'd have said to one of you all what he said to me, I'd have asked for his termination.
That's
right,
crazy.
Well, I see where this meeting is headed, and this is really not helpful in regards to the work that really needs to get done there. So, Dr. Malik, I appreciate the work that you've done out there in getting the landfill back in compliance. I know there's a lot of work to get all the pieces put back and to help that facility become profitable again. For many years it did operate as a way to generate additional revenue for the city, and hopefully we can get back there shortly. Right now and I think we all know the amount of money that we're losing out there right now. So with that, thank you all for being here for this workshop, and I know that there's a lot of information that's been given here today, including some action items that some are pretty substantial, but as we work through those in 23, looking forward to working with the team that Dr. Malik has put together. And with that, I'll call this workshop to a close.
Thank you, Dr. Malik, for taking the time to do this today. Thank you.